Family, do you know that Ethiopia was once ruled by a dragon? Yeah, and the dragon ruled Ethiopia for several hundred years. In fact, it was the father of the queen of Sheba who destroyed the dragon, and he ruled Ethiopia for at least 200 years. We're going to speak about that tonight. And that is why the question was asked, is the Queen of Sheba reality or is she myth? Now, family, I'm going to be giving you an excerpt from a program that I did just a few evenings ago on the Tiger's Nest radio program. And of course, those who are not subscribers to the Tiger's Nest, all you have to do is email us, Priest Isaac Institute at gmail.com. Priest Isaac Institute at gmail.com and become a subscriber to the Tiger's Nest radio program. So all I want you to do is to get comfortable and take in the excerpt from the program. I just want to remind each and every one who have made up their mind to be with us in September for the mission to Ethiopia. You must contact us like yesterday. Those who will be visiting Ethiopia with us, I'm speaking of. Now is the time to contact us to make sure that everything is set in order. Give thanks again for those who will be a part of that. Let me just remind everyone that you are free to contact us to get a copy of what is known as the proposal for the mission to Ethiopia. So you get a good understanding of the purpose of this mission, the diplomatic mission, the business aspect of the mission, the cultural aspect, and of course, the fact-finding aspect of the mission. Now, remember, we would have created several avenues for each and every individual to be a part of this mission that we are on, to add to the mission. So, first of all, as I said, if you want to be with us, I'm talking about for the African Union CARICOM Summit. Remember, we have made the way, created the avenue for you to join us, for you to be a part of the Addis Ababa tour, to see all the great sites that are in Addis Ababa. I'm talking about from the Grand Palace of Haile Selassie I. Then, of course, we have the national tour where we will be going to Gondar, we will be going to Lalibela, we will be going to Aksum. And again, I am encouraging you, once you want to be on that meditation, I'm encouraging you to contact us as soon as possible. And then again, remember, we also created several what you would call sponsorship programs as such, levels of sponsorship, I should say. Remember, you have the full sponsorship, you have the platinum sponsorship, you have the diamond sponsorship, the gold sponsorship, the silver sponsorship, and of course, each level of sponsorship comes with the value of the sponsorship as it relates to marketing and promotion with the mission that we are on. And then at the same time, we are offering you the ability to advertise with us in the upcoming edition of the Ambassador's Pen, to advertise with us in the upcoming edition of Kidemi. All of these actions would literally add to the mission. You are assisting this mission when you advertise with us, when you take a sponsorship package, even when you decide to join us in Ethiopia, you are assisting the mission. And as I said before, just in case you decided that, listen, I don't want to do none of the above, you can simply donate. So even if you're donating 5,000, you can donate 2,000. You can donate 200. You can make a donation specifically to the mission and receive nothing in return. But that's up to you, because again, we have the value of your donation that we can make sure this is a whole reciprocal process. So if you have a business, if you have an enterprise, and you are going to make a contribution to the standard of a silver or a gold or a platinum sponsorship, of course, we will be creating a whole magazine for your business if you desire. You know, we will be creating paraphernalia. I'm talking about mugs and shirts and these different things, bags, and we will be brandishing them when we lecture internationally. But that's up to you. And just to show you, family, this is what we are about. It's business, diplomacy, education, culture, all a part of the mission to Ethiopia. But as I said, family, this is just a part of the fundraising mission, the fundraising activity as it relates to this whole process here and what we will be doing. I will revisit that as we enter a bit more into this program. As I said a few evenings ago, I had a program highlighting the Queen of Sheba and the reality of her. Some people say that the Queen of Sheba it didn't exist. You know that. Oh yeah, man. Some people say that Solomon didn't exist. So the Queen of Sheba and the Ark of the Covenant, all of that is make-up stuff. And then when you're gonna tell people that the Queen of Sheba ruled after a dragon who ruled for several hundred years, you're just adding fuel to the fire. You know, people will say, you see, this is what I'm talking about, this foolishness, you know. But anyway, let me not say too much. It has been said already. As I said, I did a program on the whole subject, and I'm going to take an excerpt from the program. It was myself and the Honorable Princess Acacia Menin, and we were highlighting the Queen of Sheba and how she came to power after the dragon that was ruling Ethiopia got slew. In fact, again, as I said, let me not say anything else. I will just continue from this angle. As I said, we are going into a very mystic meditation this evening. And of course, let me just say, give thanks for that documentary there that you just took in a bit of, maybe about 5 minutes worth. Now, what the narrator was speaking of a moment ago, he was giving you some history and some aspect of the history. Obviously, he was quite skeptical about the history. And he was speaking of the Queen of Sheba, and he was speaking of the Queen of Sheba's father, who, listen good, literally ruled according to that story there for 200 years. But that's nothing. There was a dragon that ruled for 400 years, and he was not a nice ruler. In fact, they used to have to sacrifice virgins unto this dragon regularly so he doesn't, come and destroy them. So it was the Queen of Sheba's father, Angabo, who decided that he's going to come and save the people. In fact, I'm going to read something here for you. In fact, Honorable Princess Acacia Menin, will you do me the pleasure of reading this information? And it's coming from, where is it coming from? That's on
Horn in.
interesting. AC.UK, Horn of Africa information. But I would have changed that title to something else. But yes, go through.
The first register of cartoons show how Ethiopia was terrorized by a serpent called Wainaba.
Okay, and this is
a painting on cotton depicting scenes from the story of Solomon and Sheba.
Okay, so what we're reading here from this website, really, it is really depicting the scene of the Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, coming together. In fact, we highlighted this years ago in a documentary we did entitled "The Master of Ceremonies." But really, the story begins from the dragon. That's where the story begins from. This is very interesting. This is not the white man's idea of what's happening in Africa. they came to Africa. People like James Bruce came to Africa and found this cotton painting depicting these scenes with the dragon and everything. Listen good, family. And then this dragon, again, 400 years, got destroyed by a brother who reigned, not lived, but reigned for 200 years. And he's the father of the Queen of Sheba. I'm going to ask my Queen of Honorable Princess to read for me again um, this paragraph in its fullness.
All right. So, painting on cotton depicting scenes from the story of Solomon and Sheba. The first register of cartoons show how Ethiopia was terrorized by a serpent called Wainaba, who had to be appeased with a sacrifice every time the people wanted to collect water. One man, Angabo, was determined to free Ethiopia from the serpent's tyranny. He collected the poison, which he mixed with a grain and fed to the sacrificial goat, poisoning the serpent. Angabo killed the serpent and was proclaimed king of Ethiopia. After his death, his daughter Sheba, or Makeda as she was known in Ethiopia, was crowned as queen.
Now, that may be a surprise to many. And again, this is why we highlight the importance of not losing, which we have basically lost. It's about regaining our connection to understanding symbolism, to understanding the esoterics, to understanding and comprehending allegory, to be in tune with the mythos. I'm telling you, years people trying to throw fire on us, for these things. I like to say trying to throw. We'd say, boy, I used to get a lot of licks for this. Nobody ever licked me. You can't hit me for this. I'm telling you, people try, because many never understood. I've lived to see ones who didn't understand the importance of the esoterics again, the importance of symbolism, the importance of the mythos, again, the importance of allegory. That is why these so-called stories never affected us as Africans. We have a king's list, Rastafari. Listen to me good. We have a king's list that has the Queen of Sheba on the king's list, Queen Makeda, the Kandake. And remember, we did a whole, not necessarily a series, it was a webinar on the Queen of Sheba, but yet still we did a series, of programs going into that specific webinar. You can find them on our YouTube channel, and the webinar itself, I think you can purchase that on the website. I must say, I'm not even too sure with that one there, but it got to be there somewhere. The webinar of the Queen of Sheba. And what did we do? We really took the time to break down the truth behind the Makeda, the Kandake, the Candace, and of course we went into all the sisters in the Nubian kingdom, the what's the sisters? The
Amani Venus.
The Amani Venus and the one-eyed goddess, and those thick, mothers from the ancient Nubia, the ancient Kushite mothers there that would have conquered even the Romans, those who were mentioned in the time of Philip when he baptized the Ethiopian from the courts of the Candace, or Candice as it's referred to in that book at that time. So it's the same wife of Amun that stands before Amun, the god of the sun, Ra Amun, Sol Amun, Solomon, the same Makeda, the same Kandake that stands before Ra Amun. Ra is the Sol or the sun, Sol Amun, the Solomon. Puts her son in front of her and asks him to make her son the king. It's the same thing you see play out when the Queen Makeda stood before Ra Amun or Solomon, pardon, and said, yeah, my son, Menelik the first. But of course, it's expressed in a lot of allegory. Eh? You get it? Because allegory is poetry. Allegory is not just symbolism. Allegory is poetry or song or dance. The esoterics is science, deep, deep science. Now, of course, the allegory will have the esoterics in it. Some esoterics are not necessarily allegories, just plain. You know what I mean? Just pure academics. It's a deep thing. And you put them all in the mythos, which is not necessarily mythology. It's like astronomy is not astrology. So it's really understanding a lot of these morphed words that have been given to us to speak. And sometimes we speak them according to what they say the definition of them are. I don't really want to confuse no one. Something just want to you know, keep it plain, as Malcolm X would say, keep it plain. Malcolm X is 100 this year. Keep it plain. You understand? Patrice Lumumba, 100 years this year. Keep it plain, eh? Frantz Fanon, 100 years this year. Keep it plain, eh? Idi Amin, although it's debatable in some quarters, but 100 years this year. So we give thanks, my very father, my biological daddy, I'm talking about 100 years this year. Eh? Keep it plain. And that would be if he was still with us. So, again, family, listen good. So, what the narrator was saying there a moment ago is that the Queen of Sheba, her father, was the individual that slew the dragon. But to the point that, now listen to this is real mystic, to the point that you can look on the cotton painting and see the dragon, the whole story, and the brother slewing the dragon and all of that. Well, it is the same way that we would have expressed Saint George, Kedos Girgis, on his horse, slewing the dragon as well. It's the same way, listen good, that we have Andromeda, which is seen in the heavens, but yet still is considered an Ethiopian legend. The Andromeda who was saved from the sea god, according to the heavens and the god Perseus. Uh, but again, remember, and her mother Cassiopeia, and her father Kephas. Kephas is Kete, and Cassiopeia is I think her name is Cassiope in Ethiopia. Follow me good. And Kete and Cassiope are two literal Ethiopian rulers, several hundred years apart. You understand? But you can see them, even if you want to say, crystallize in the heavens as Cassiopeia, which is the W, and of course Kephas, which is the ruling king, and they're all in the northern hemisphere of the heavens, literally going around the pole star. And then at the same time, you have Andromeda, who is chained down. Even in the heavens, she looks like she's chained down. And you still see Perseus. All of this is in the heavens, coming to rescue Andromeda from the serpent, from the dragon that is coming to destroy her. You can see it in the sky when you look at it. Now, of course, one may say that's up to your own interpretation. But as I would have always said, I agree with that. But there are many things that is in the heavens, that are in the heavens, that I'm telling you, that are extremely, extremely clear, undoubted. It's what it's said to be, especially like, for example, that Andromeda, you could see the damsel laying down, chained up in distress, clear as crystal. And of course, the M31, which is the galaxy of the Andromeda, right there on her knee. So listen to me, family. What I'm saying now is that all of that and the story that the Ethiopians created around that, It's not the Greeks made up no story. They got it from us too. We're looking at it on a very symbolic level because King Kete and Queen Cassiopeia obviously would have ruled Ethiopia, and the time frame in between when they ruled is symbolic of Andromeda. Andromeda is Ethiopia, held captive but rescued at the hands of Perseus, and that's what it is. So returning now to the Queen of Sheba, because I think any right thinking person knows that the Queen of Sheba, her father, ruled in Ethiopia for 200 years and defeating a great fire breathing lizard, who was ruling for 400 years to get the power. Not only doesn't that make any sense, that sounds like a dream you were having. It doesn't connect to the reality. Now we're historians now, no time to baffle. We're historians. And we have a king's list that has been authorized by Rastafari even before he became emperor. I think even before he was Negus, he already ratified this king's list. I don't think there's anything in the world literally documented that can be compared to this. And this is why the scholars, even many of our own semi-scholars and scholars, some of them come in the form of reporters and documentary makers, are very skeptical of, are you sure the Ark of the Covenant is here? Are you sure this is this? Are you sure this is that? Now, let me be clear to myself. Huh? Remember, even the Ethiopians have, with all due respect, have lost contact with understanding what's really symbolism and what's true. So just like almost anyone that's engulfed with Christianity as you know it, they will take anything and just take it as how it's written, and that's just how the story goes, and no questions asked. And that really makes room for a lot of misbelief, a lot of confusion, and totally out of the realms of science. That's all. So getting overindulged and just losing it is not the real value of understanding the esoterics and understanding your culture. It's just as bad as those of us who have been enslaved, if you want to say, or the descendants of the enslaved, is just as bad as those of us who just throw away. That's what we do. We just throw away the science of the esoteric, the science of symbolism. That's what it is. Totally, totally. You understand? And that is why when we read what we read, that's just how the story goes. No question asked. Yes, that he died, he came back to life, and the fish spit him out on the shore, and the whole sea split open, and two animals went in the boat, one window in the whole boat. That's just it. No question asked. He opened the man and take out a rib, and a whole woman was created by the rib because this man can do anything. The serpent used to have legs, and then because the serpent make her eat the apple, he take off the serpent leg, and the serpent sliding on the ground. We don't have no time to think of that as being nothing but what we read, and it's actually sacrilegious to even deny this. Nobody denying it, but it's not as literal as how you're reading it. That's all. That's the point, you know. And the ancient ones valued that. We understood the value of that, I should say. So this is why we could tell you about Queen of Sheba and her father, the dragon killer. You understand? That was nothing to us. We knew that her father was to how we pronounce it now, to Asaya Jews, Tawasaya Jews. Give thanks. And I think he ruled for some 13 years, and even his father was who's that now? Sebi the fourth, and he ruled for about 10 years, and then even before that, his father was or the ruler before him, I should say, was Pinot Sem the third. You understand? run about 7 years, and the man before him 14 years, and then 16 years. And of course, you have some very mystic names in our Kemetic. We have Amen,
Amen Emhat.
Amen Emhat. Imagine that.
It
And
sounds like Amen Amhet.
Amen Emhet of Kemet. And what you have here, Amen, what's this one here?
Astarte.
Amen Astarte. You understand? Well, Astarte really sounds Ethiopian. And look at this name here.
Her Hator.
Her Hator. You understand? And that's you have her Hator the third and her Hator the second. And I think these are brothers, but these are still Kemetic names, like Heteru and Hator. But the point that we are making here, family, is that I don't see no space for no dragon ruling for 400 years. I missed that totally when I read the King's List. Somebody got to maybe refresh it. I mean, something. No, there's no need to refresh it. It is those who came in, the same ones that tell us that the Ethiopians are black Caucasians. I never heard anything as foolish as that. Black Caucasians. We can run the video for you. One fella said that these are biblical white men turned black by the African sun. In fact, the other day, one of these evenings, I'm going to bring it for you. The other day, I was watching a documentary about Haile Selassie and the war with Mussolini. In fact, I had a copy of this years ago, and I came across it on the internet. So I was joyful to see it. I said, "Wow!" So things were just coming back to me. The narrator was saying, and I didn't remember this, he said that Haile Selassie was educated in Europe. I said, when was that? Where? Well, I'm telling you. So now that's to tell you how they just get away with any old thing. And we just run behind that, and we really got to be careful. So, that's just my take as it relates to that family. I know I sometimes I'm very speedy in my presentations, but the Tiger's Nest, we have other things we want to touch upon today. But remember, there is an authentic Ethiopian King's List that was ratified by Haile Selassie I. There's no list anywhere in the world as precise, as lengthy, as ancient, and they just go around it as if they don't see it. Trust me, a big elephant in the room, the Ethiopians' King's List. Give thanks for ones like King Haile Saifa Selassie, our good brother, who is definitely doing some mighty works on different levels as it relates to the King's List and documenting certain aspects of it. That for sure will be brought to the world in very short order, I'm sure. All right, very good. So again, check out the Ethiopian Kings List and understand the balance as it relates to symbolism and, of course, the historic aspect of it. Now, what I want to go into now is a bit of history as it relates to the founding of Benin. And of course, as I said, that is an excerpt taken from the Tiger's Nest. But that is interesting, as you know, the statues, some of the statues that were stolen from the ancient kingdom of Benin some time ago would have been sent back, repatriated. Just 119 statues. They have thousands more statues in Europe, bronze statue from the ancient kingdom of Benin. Yes, of course, many of them would have been repatriated, or some of them, I should say. Just over the weekend there was a big ceremony in Nigeria as it relates to that. So we will be highlighting this in the upcoming ambassador's pen. So make sure you get a read of that, family. Those who do not know what I'm talking about, the ambassador's pen, that is the newest. I'm talking about most informative journal that is out there right now. And remember our previous ambassador's pen. I'm talking about the revolutionary edition. Well, in a moment, we are coming out with another edition of the ambassador's pen. So get your reading cap ready for such. Family, let me remind you once again, those of you who will be joining us on the mission in Ethiopia, you need to contact us right away. Priest Isaac Institute at gmail.com. That's Priest Isaac Institute at gmail.com, and let us know what's up, and we will give you all the information that you need to know. In general, family, time is here. Time is at hand. So even those who are advertising with us for the upcoming Ambassador's Pen and of course the upcoming Kidemi, and now is the time for you to contact us and definitely get your space, definitely get your articles, definitely get your features in order. And then at the same time, for those of you who will be taking one of the special sponsorship packages that we have, whether it's the full sponsorship, whether it is the gold or the silver, whatever have you. Again, now is the time. And even those who are making a donation, remember you have the Cash App, remember you have the PayPal, remember you have the Zelle. Each and every one, I'm encouraging you to get a copy of the proposal, even if you already decided what you're going to do. I still would love you to go through the mission to Ethiopia proposal so you comprehend heart to heart the reason for this mission or the reasons for the mission and the importance of the mission. You know, why we see it as our responsibility, not just to do it, but to do it in the way that we are doing it. This is very important. It is a specific methodology that we're using, not just to raise the funds, but to literally execute the mission that we are on the Ethiopian. It would be nice if at least within your mental space you garner a better comprehension of why this is done. We're talking about freedom, redemption, international repatriation, the will of our Father, the Black Christ. So it's priestisaacinstitute.com, Priest Isaac Institute at gmail.com for the email as well. And of course, remember the links for all the magazines are in the description below the video. I am looking forward to hearing from each and every one of you who would like to add to the mission and definitely be a part of the new wave that is taking over the world. Yeah, man, this is Africa time. Thanks for your presence. Holy Emmanuel I, Selassie I, Jah Rastafari, life giver and the keeper of life. Blessed love.